The the first thing I saw as an enemy of mental alertness was that we have fixed time, fixed space, fixed sequencing, fixed text to work from. And I decided to make the time, the space, the sequences, and the text completely variable on an individual basis, but you had to negotiate with me for it. So a kid could come in who spent all his time drawing comic books in my room, but being pretty discreet about it there. He could come in and say, I want 1 day a week to go to the public library at a time when no other kids are there during the school day, sit in the art section, take down all the resources on graphic art, and put myself through a high-level program of learning perspective and the dynamics of coloring and so on, of graphic arts. He would have changed the sequencing, the space, the time, and the text selection of his school day. And that was one of the projects that I allowed. I had a standing offer that anyone who wanted to, who was deeply engaged in a piece of work in my room, that I would find space for them, if they chose, to continue on that work until it was finished or until they were much further along, rather than being picked up at the sound of a bell and dropped in a gym class or an art class or a science class or any other class at all, that they could finish what they started. So that was one of the methods that, with great success and a lot of political maneuvering, that I introduced into my classes. Another thing that I inserted about midway in my teaching career is that I would create a project, but I would disperse my kids anywhere in New York City that they chose to go in order to complete that project. If you're a fan of Peter Drucker's management books, this would be Drucker's invention of managing by objectives. The executive selects the goal to be approached and reached, but he does not survey any of the methods at all. He simply says, today we're here, tomorrow we want to be there. Get there any way that you can. So some of those things, to give you some examples, one that was outrageously successful was, recall that my kids were 13 years old, and I said, in 5 years, which is 1,825 days, some of you go off to college, and some of you go off to a job, but all of you are going to have to find a place to live unless you want to hang out at home, which not many of you will want to do. So you're going to get an empty space, and you're going to have to convert it very quickly, all by yourself with no prior experience, into some reasonable approximation of a home, so that you won't be ashamed to have friends in or a girlfriend over for dinner or whatever. So what you need to do is not only find out what the objects required for that are, the functional ones, and then the ones that you would add to realize your personality, but you're going to have to find out approximately what their prices are going to be. Then you're going to total the amount of that, and you're going to find yourself facing a whopping bill that very few of you could conceivably hope to reach. But rather than me telling you what it is, go anywhere in New York City. I'm going to give you a 2.5-room apartment, and you'll be lucky in New York City to get a 2.5-room apartment. You're probably talking at the cheapest $1,500 a month rent, and probably more like $2,000 a month rent. Well, that's $24,000 a year. To get $24,000 after taxes, you have to make, I don't know, $32,000, and then of course you have to eat and clothe yourself and get around.